Charlotte Readers Podcast Beyond 300 is about you, the listener. We want your feedback, opinions, recommendations, and questions. Email us or leave us a voice message and you might hear us mention you or play your message on the podcast. Just go to the homepage or contact page at charlottereaderspodcast.com and look for the links to email us or leave a voice message. It's easy to do. Let's have some fun together.
So Jenifer, it's great to have you back on the Charlotte Readers Podcast.
It's great to be back. Thanks for inviting me.
Yeah, and it's it's been a while. You were with us very early on in the process. It's been about 3 or 4 years since I've been podcasting now, and you were one of the first. So it's great to be back. And you've written probably 10 books in the meantime?
Probably four or five since I was on the podcast.
That's great. And we're going to talk about that. In fact, we're going to talk about one of your recent books that I listened to, The Green Went Missing, which I really enjoyed. But before that, we're going to dive in and talk about indie publishing because you're good at it. And I know listeners who are in that world will benefit from what you have to say. But let's just start off with sort of a basic. Why did you choose to go be an indie publisher?
Sure. I didn't start out that way. I started out with a small publisher, published my first 2 books with a small publisher where I didn't have to do anything. It didn't cost me anything, which was great at the time because I didn't know anything about publishing or marketing. So that was perfect for me, and I learned a lot when I was with them. But as I was learning, I started realizing that I wanted to do more. I wanted to have more control. In fact, I wanted to build a small business empire. And there's no way you can do that without being in charge, having total control. So there were 2 great things that the publisher did for me is when I signed a contract with them, they require me to have a website and also to pick one social media platform and be active on it. And at the time, I think I was the last known person standing that wasn't on social media at all and had no intention of doing it. So having that push, it wasn't my choice. Having that push was great for me. I chose Facebook and created a personal page and an author page. And to this day, I rely on Facebook so much for running ads, marketing, and also for the support I get from other authors in the independent community.
Yeah, that's great. And you mentioned, picking one. I think that's good advice because you can get overwhelmed with social media and it can take away from things. But so how many books do you publish a year?
So I publish 2 books a year. I'm trying to get to 3. And I probably write 3 a year and manage to publish 2 a year. And my 14th book comes out in October. My 15th's almost finished. So I'm meeting my goals.
That's awesome. And how many different series do you have?
I have 3 series. One I've been writing in much more than the others. The ideas for that one are just coming to me. But my plan originally was to produce 1 book in each series and, then go back and start again. Because each time a new book comes out in the series, it breathes new life into the entire series, which is fantastic. So it's definitely in your best interest to keep writing them and breathing life into your backlist. But easier said than done.
Well, that's what I was going to say, because having just gone through the process of publishing my first full-length novel, I'd done 3 novellas, but having the full-length novel and spending all the time in the research and then the advance, and of course, I'm still learning a lot. I mean, you've got a lot of this stuff down, and we're going to talk about some of the things you do. This sort of part of your system, but still, to write that many books a year, a little bit about your process, maybe, so we can figure out how you do that.
Sure. Well, everybody is so different. I mean, remember you said you're a binge writer. I'm completely the opposite of that. So the ideas come very easily to me. I have a crazy, wild imagination. The ideas are always there. And my challenge is always to execute those ideas into a well-written novel that's engaging, that someone doesn't want to put down. So I always have a book in process. Like when I finish one, I've already have the ideas for the next one fleshed out, so that I never have a space where there's nothing going on. So I flesh out the ideas, and since I write mystery thrillers, I'm really focused on the plot, on what is the mystery, where are the twists, where are the different points where my main characters discover things, where are the red herrings. So I'm very focused on that outline, and I kind of work it out from beginning to end. And then I have to go back, and this is the hard part for me, is just revising, rewriting. It's constant. Adding details, adding to the character development, and really making the book come alive. So the idea plot part is probably the easiest part, and then just the constant rewriting and revising. And I'm lucky enough that my process for that is I have a critique group, and we can only submit 5,000 words a month, so they never even get through half a novel, but it's very helpful to have feedback. And then I have beta readers, and I have an ARC team. So all of these people are giving me feedback, and I'm making minor revisions before the book is published.
And just we'll throw out the terminology. ARC team means the Advanced Reader Copy Team, right?
Yes.
So do you use any tools for plotting or outlining, or you just scratch it out in Word or some other format?
Yeah, I just scratch it out in Word. And I don't know how anyone can write without a computer, because, I mean, all of my stuff is cut and pasted here and there. I mean, it's just, the revising is nonstop. So I definitely use a computer, but no tools, not just Microsoft Word.
Now, I know that when you were traditionally published, you would have gone through an editor with your publisher. Do you have an editor that you work with, or have you identified all the people that take a look at it?
But half of my novels have been edited, and the more my books sell, the more interested I became in having an editor. Like, I want these books to be as good as I can possibly make them. So I made a big mistake about a year or two ago in being very generous with telling people who my editor was. And now I can't get that editor. So in fact, I needed her now, and she's got 2 manuscripts ahead of me, both people that I recommended. So that was a mistake. I'm not doing that anymore. Don't ask me who my editor is. From my very first book, where the editor had a lot of work to do, that work has lessened for sure. I'm getting the hang of this. So she's focused more on the story, and she can help me strengthen the story. Maybe there's a lot of tiny things she finds, but the need for editor seems to be less the more I go. So that's a good thing.
All right. Now, you talked about running a small, empire and everything, and you mentioned backlist. And as I understand it, for an indie author to start making money, it's really about getting more books in your backlist that you can start doing things with in terms of promotion to start selling those books. Am I right about that?
I think so. I think for the most part, but I have a few books that way outsell my others, and I have a few friends who are, making millions of dollars on just a few books that they just nailed it. They got everything right, and they're paying a lot of money to advertise them. So I think it depends, but a backlist never hurts. Each time you write a new book, you find new readers, and if they love what they're reading, they go back and read the others. So it's kind of a constant funnel of bringing people in with new work and having them discover your old work.
Well, let's talk about, as part of having an empire, you've got people that work with you. Do you format your own books, or do you sub that out as well?
I format my own books. I try and do everything I possibly can myself, so that I'm not waiting and I'm just not dependent on anyone else. That's my goal. It's not always possible. I certainly don't make my own covers. That would be a disaster.
So you've got cost in an editor when you can get her or him, and you've got cost in your cover. You've learned to format. Do you use a particular formatting tool?
Nope. I format right in Microsoft Word.
Oh, wow. Okay. Well, you got to export it somehow to get it in EPUB or whatever.
Oh, I use Draft to Digital to do that. Yeah.
Yeah, the person I work with who formats for me uses something called Vellum, which I've heard some people use as well. All right, well, that's great news about the way you do this, although I think trying to replicate 2 or 3 books a year would be a real challenge. But you seem like you got it down. Let's talk about platforms and marketing, because I think indie publishers are always trying to figure out, what's the best way to go. And you and I actually had some conversations when I was launching my recent novel on the ebook side about pre-orders and pricing and when to do X and when to do Y and that kind of thing. So talk about the platforms that you publish on and why you chose what you chose.
I am exclusive to Amazon for my ebooks. That's so that I can be in Kindle Unlimited. And that has been great for me. I think it's a wonderful way for maybe an unknown author to find new readers. You're not competing with the huge editors. You're not, James Patterson is not in Kindle Unlimited. So maybe it makes it a little easier. But that is the majority of probably 50% of my income comes from Kindle Unlimited. So I only have my ebooks through Amazon, and I'm really happy with that. Everything else, I'm wide. So you can buy my print and hardback books on Amazon, but you can go into any bookstore and order them, Walmart, Target. You can order them anywhere, and those stores will order them through Ingram Spark. And for audiobooks, I'm on Amazon, but I also distribute them through Findaway. So they're available through every single audiobook distributor out there.
Yeah, well, I think I'm doing some things right then because I try to, follow your standards here. So I'm on, my audiobooks are on Findaway, and they're not exclusive to Audible, so they can be wider there. And then the trade paperback is with Ingram Spark, and therefore it can get in bookstores and that kind of thing. And the ebooks I'm trying this time with the latest, although my first 3 novellas are wide. This one, Deadly Declarations, has been Kindle Unlimited, as you suggested. And I guess let's talk about that a minute, because there are some things that you can do with that platform. Like during the first 90 days, I was able to run a free promotion of the book for about a week and picked up, 75 or 80 reviews, that way. And and I guess there's this page read thing, and I'm not sure that's getting better or worse. What are your thoughts on the whole page read and the promotion?
So the page read, that's Kindle Unlimited. That's millions of people paying a set amount every month, maybe $10, $12 a month, and they can read as many pages as they want of books in Kindle Unlimited. And so that's fantastic. I mean, when you're getting to millions of page reads a month, that's a lot of readers, and that's a lot of income coming in. So I'm all for that. I think it's wonderful. And when you do a BookBub promotion, say, and you have 30 or 40,000 downloads, those page reads go up. We don't know why it happens, but it is a guaranteed. They go up for about 2 weeks, and that's just so many more people reading your books. So doing those free promotions, I try and keep those on like the first in my series, because I want as many people to discover those, and I won't do those per se on the newer books, because I want people to pay, feel good about those, for a year or two. But those free promotions are wonderful. And I say yes to everything Amazon offers me. So Kindle Daily Deals, Prime Reading, I say yes to all of those. It's all just wonderful exposure and opportunity to find new readers.
Yeah, I think it is about trying to find, new readers. And I think I've told you in the past that I've been trying to get into BookBub. Let's go ahead and talk about this now, because you brought it up, for like 4 years with my novellas, but it never happened. But I got in, with Deadly Declarations. And I think it was probably because by the time I submitted to them, I'd already had 3 trade reviews with Kirkus and a couple of others, Book Life, and I think the Midwest Book Review, and then I also had about 200 reviews online by the time I submitted, and that was only like 3 months in to the release. And so they said yes, and that was great. And what happened was, I mean, it's kind of amazing to me, but and you've probably had this experience, but that thing ran in June, and it's only the middle of July now, and I've already had more than 300 reviews.
That's fantastic.
As a result of that. Now, it was a free BookBub, right? I ran it free, but I mean, that's a lot of readers that are reading your book and they're commenting on your book, right?
Yeah.
I mean, that's what you want, right?
It's wonderful. It's wonderful. Nothing compares to BookBub. They are still far and away the leader in getting your book out to as many people as possible who really will read it. So they're awesome.
And as I see that you've got BookBubs coming along at different times, how often do they take an author, and what's the secret to getting in?
I don't know. I've been really lucky. I've run every book on BookBub that I've wanted to, and some of them I've done 2 or 3 times. I don't know, honestly, because I know I have author friends who have very good quality books with lots of reviews who just keep getting turned down. And every once in a while I'll see a book with like 10 reviews and I think, what on earth, how did they get one? So I really don't know. I think it's your best chance is to have good reviews, to have a quality cover, a good blurb, because they just want to make sure that they are maintaining the quality of the books they offer people. I think that's their most important criteria, that they're putting out something that people are really going to like. So if you're focused on that, I guess you have a better chance.
Yeah, and just for indie publishers that are listening, I started messing around with BookBub about a year ago. You need to go on and set up your profile, put your books on there. I think I had 1 follower. Now I've got about 200 because I've got the BookBub and people follow you after that. So get on there and just start trying, because, and this, just to be clear, this is for your ebook. So they'll price your ebook at a reduced price, or they'll put it up for free. And then amazingly, it just goes out to all these people.
Yeah, we should be clear that these aren't cheap either. They're expensive. They're, $600 to $1,000 to give your book away for free. But there's no better way to get it out there to readers.
Yeah, I agree with that. And while we're talking about promotions, let's talk about audiobooks real quick, and about Chirp, because you do audiobooks, and it sounds like, do you produce your audiobooks on the ACX platform? Is that how you met your narrators?
My first few audiobooks, I did a royalty share years ago, and I regret that so much. That is just a terrible mistake, because then you don't own those. You can't do whatever you want with them. You have to buy out your narrator in order to kind of either redo the audio or just have opportunities to do what you want with it. So I don't recommend that to anyone.
And just to be clear, so folks, you can go on and produce an audiobook on the ACX platform, connect with a narrator, and you can either pay them a per finished hour rate, or you can do a royalty share. But as Jenifer says, then you're tied up. People do it sometimes. They think, well, then I don't have to pay them anything, and yet you're giving up that control that she cherishes.
Yeah. So the royalty share costs you nothing, and you and the narrator split the profits. Like maybe they get 30%, you get 40%. But I think that if you're, going forward and you're going to be writing more books, producing more audiobooks, don't do that. You'll regret it. So I now work with, my last few books were with a company I really like, and they produced the audiobook and put it right on ACX for me. And then I download those files and I put them on Findaway.
All right, I noticed that in the Groom Went Missing, you used 2 narrators, which obviously increases the cost of the book, right?
Yes.
And is this the first time you've done that?
This was might be my second with 2 narrators, yes.
Okay. And are you pleased with that? I mean, I found it to be engaging to have, two voices.
Yeah. One of my first audiobooks, I had a male narrator, And he did such a great job, and it's one of my best-selling audiobooks. He did such a great job with the narration and the male voices. And then the female voices, they all sound just awful to me. And, you know, there's just not much you can do when you have like a baritone voice and you're doing female characters. And so then I decided that female narrators can do male voices better than males can do females. So my next few were with a woman, and then I decided that, hey, you can do both. So I'm real happy with these people, and they put in sound effects that I think are really neat. So they're going to do, they're doing my next book in 2 weeks. They're going to start on my next book.
So is this does this fall into your rule of don't give away the name of the company, or are they big enough that you can share that?
Oh, gosh. Do I have to?
Well, I mean, I don't know. Do they work for a lot of different authors?
Yeah. It's called Silverton Audio. And so they, you know, once you choose them, you still have to audition narrators. So you're not, you know, it's not like there's just 2 people. But they've been great.
Now, I know, so for my audiobooks, I negotiated a $200 per finished hour rate or something for one narrator to do the book. And of course, you can do the math if it takes 10 hours for the audiobook, and then you've got, you know, some, if you hire somebody to help you with that, you can sort of figure out the math of that. Mm-hmm. Is that how you negotiate with them? Is it a per finished hour rate that you pay?
Yeah, it's always a per finished hour. And my books come in about 7 or 8 hours, so it's pretty much been the same all along.
Do you pay that to each narrator, or do you just pay it to the company and they negotiate with the narrator?
I just pay it to the company.
Okay. Well, one thing you told me, which I found was interesting, is when I worked with my narrator, which I found on the first books with ACX, but then we decided just to do it directly, and we put it up on Findaway, and I put it up on Audible separately. You know, I just went directly to him, and I did a lot of things for him. I did character sketches. I provided information about the characters. One thing you said you did, which I found interesting, was that you went and sort of edited the manuscript to take out the he saids and the she saids.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, I think that when someone's reading, those dialogue tags can be important, but when you have dual narrators, you don't need a male to read something and then say he said, and then the female to read and say she said. So I go through, I take out a lot of those, and then I also flag any spots where, you know, he snorted, he laughed, he huffed, and I kind of flag those for the narrator, and I say, do this, you know, don't say he huffed, just huff. And they've been great about that. So, and they also give me, they kind of go through pronunciations with me, and before they record the whole thing, they give me a sample of each of my main characters to make sure it's not, you know, way off of how I envisioned it. But that's about it. They take care of the rest.
All right. Well, I want to work into an area, because we've talked about, you know, the decision to be an indie publisher, and the fact that you got to sort of, you get the control, but you also pick up the responsibility as well, because you're having to, you know, get your book cover. You've got to get people to listen, to read your book and that kind of thing. Do you have, let's talk about launches and that kind of thing, because I did a lot of planning ahead, and I'm sure you do too with your launches, because you probably put them up for pre-order. And then, so can you talk us through sort of your launch process and any tips you can give to people about that process?
Sure. Well, I'm always trying new things, always. So every launch I've, either because things are changing or I find out about something new, and I try and eliminate the things that don't work. But the most important thing, I guess, is my timeline, knowing that when I finish my book, when I'm finished, there's still many, many more months. And it doesn't have to be this way. Some people finish a book and boom, it's up, you know, a week later. But I put it up for pre-order when I'm almost finished, where I'm sure I'm going to finish. I'll put it up for pre-order, and I'll give myself maybe 5-6 months. So during that time, I have beta readers and author friends reading it, and I'm not paying these people. So, if they find something, they send it to me. If they don't, they don't. There's no guarantee that they're not working for me. But I can count on everyone to maybe find one or two things that bug them or just didn't seem right. And so I'm fixing those little things. And meanwhile, I'm revising my blurb and just thinking about all of the marketing things that I'm going to do. And most important for me, because I'm writing in series, is that when a book comes out, I've got the next 2 chapters of the book that comes after. I've got those in the book that's coming out. So when you get to the end of The Groom Went Missing, you can read the first 2 chapters of Vanish on Vacation and you can pre-order it. So that's my most important goal, is that my next book is on pre-order by the time I publish the one before it.
That presumes you're going to get the next book finished in 5 to 6 months after the other one comes out, right?
Yeah, well, that's why I don't put it on pre-order until I'm positive I can finish it. Like, there's no way it's going to get scrapped. I'm so close to the end. It's coming out.
All right, let's talk about pre-order a second, because you can set up a pre-order on Amazon with an ebook, but not a print book, right? And then you do the print book pre-order through Ingram Spark. Is that right?
I don't actually do a print book pre-order. I've never done those. I just haven't yet.
Well, I did it through Ingram, and it shows up on Bookshop and that kind of thing. So, and then someone will pick it up. But you primarily do your ebook pre-order. Is that what you're talking about?
Yes.
And we had some conversation about how to price that pre-order. Do you discount it? Do you keep it the price you're going to price the book?
When I started out, I discounted it heavily. The idea was to get the ranking up as high as possible on Amazon. And for a long time, that was kind of the best thinking, is that you want to sell as many as you can early so your ranking goes up and then people just find it organically. But I realized that was killing me because my pre-orders are the people I can count on to buy the book. They're my most loyal followers. They're going to buy the book no matter what it costs. So having my pre-order discounted was not a good idea. So my last 4 books, my ebooks are priced at $5.99, which is certainly much less than traditional ebooks, but maybe high on the indie side. And so I've kept it that. My pre-order goes up at $5.99 and it doesn't come down unless I have a very special sale, like a one-day sale.
Yeah, that's great. Well, I think that what's interesting to me is that you're putting this thing up. When you said when you're almost done, you put it up, but then you're sending it out to beta readers, which means you're not really done. Have you been to your editor yet by the time you put it up for pre-order?
No. When I put it up for pre-order, I just know that I'm going to finish this book. So it still might need dozens of revisions, but I know that I'm not going to suddenly change the plot or redo the whole story and need another 6 months. I'm so confident that this is the book I'm going to present to the world, and now it's just a matter of smoothing it out, polishing it. That's when I feel confident. Where some people put a book up on pre-order and all they have is the concept. They have nothing but a title they haven't even written yet. And I'm not that confident yet. I've got to know that the book is pretty much done and just the editing needs to happen.
Yeah, and it's great advice to be able to put your next 2 chapters in there. But folks, you got to at least have that next book moving along before you do it. You can always go back and amend the back of your book too to add those chapters later if you don't get that book.
Absolutely. You can, when you're independently published, you can change anything, but you do have to hit your pre-order or Amazon will take away those privileges. You will not be able to do a pre-order for a few years if you don't have something come out when the pre-order date hits.
I think one of the most, one important thing you've said here today is, plan that launch out. Don't just finish your book and put it up, because you've got to sort of start building a little bit of interest in it. Let's talk about the other things that you do in terms of marketing to get the word out. You mentioned the website. Do you have a newsletter that you send out to your listeners?
I have a newsletter. It got really big and expensive. And I don't like doing a newsletter. It's just not my personality. I do not enjoy it. It was really stressful for me to come up with stuff every month. So I actually only turn my newsletter on like a month before my release. And then I'll send out a few emails saying, hey, this is coming and here it is. And then thank you so much for reading. So maybe twice a year you get emails from me. And that's the only time I use my newsletter now. Most of my marketing is through Facebook. I run Facebook ads every single day. I redo them maybe every Thursday, but I always have ads running, and that's been about 2 years. And I have Amazon ads running. I don't spend anywhere near as much as I do on Facebook, but I'm kind of afraid not to do those. I don't know that they work that great for me, but I'm afraid not to do them. So big budget on Facebook, tiny budget on Amazon, and then I supplement that with BookBub promotions, maybe 2 or 3 times a year. And then I don't say no to anything. So, last week I did someone's blog. Anytime I have an opportunity to do a blog or a podcast, I say yes, because you just never know, who you're going to meet and what good might come of that.
Yeah. And all the people are going to listen to this and say, thank you, Jenifer, for all this great information. I'm going to go read The Groom Went Missing. Yeah.
I really, really like the marketing publishing side. I just love to learn, and there's so much to learn with indie publishing. It's not never ending, and I enjoy it so much. So I love talking about it.
Do you have, you mentioned Facebook ads and doing them, religiously. I've heard this from some indie authors that are successful. You're probably spending a lot of money, but you're making it back. Is that the idea?
Yes. So like with any advertising, if you have a restaurant, maybe you're putting up billboards, you don't know for sure how many people see the billboard and come in because of it that day or a month later. So it's a little risky because it's expensive, and you can't directly attribute your ads to your sales necessarily, but definitely if I don't advertise, my sales go down. You need to somehow let people know your book is out there, whether it be in-person events or book signings. I prefer staying in my house, not going out. So Facebook works really well for me.
So tell our listeners, and I'm curious too, how do you learn more about Facebook and Amazon advertising?
There are so many courses that you can take specifically for authors. Lots of great courses out there. And in fact, if I could redo anything, I wish I had taken some of these courses like from day one. Mark Dawson, he has some excellent courses. He has an Ads for Author course that costs about $750, but it's updated constantly. Every year you get the updates. That's a really good one. That teaches you everything you need to know about Facebook, Amazon, BookBub, maybe TikTok, a few other things. That's a really good course. Brian Cohen has some really good courses. Mal Cooper has some really good courses. Then there are so many Facebook groups that an author can join to ask questions and get help. And so many of those questions are people having glitches with ads or even just trying to figure out how to get started. So few that I really like are one called Wide for the Win. That's excellent. It's got people making $1 million, and it's got people just trying to finish their first book asking questions. There's one called the SPF Formula. It stands for Self-Publishing Formula. That was one of Mark Dawson's Facebook pages. And there's one called 20 Books to 50K. The premise being that write 20 books and you can start making $50,000 a year, which you don't have to write 20 books to get there if you do things right. But those are just full of traditional and indie authors sharing their successes, sharing encouragement, asking questions. Those are great. And you're kind of aware that you're not in this alone. Like, one day Facebook ads platform was totally acting screwy. And I just panicked. I thought it was my ads, and I went right to one of these groups, and there's like 100 people right away saying, what's going on with Facebook ads? And so right away you feel like, oh, it's okay. It's going to be okay. It's not just me. There's a lot of support out there.
Yeah, that's really helpful. Now, one of the things you haven't mentioned, Jenifer, is bookstores and libraries. Do you spend much time trying to get your book into bookstores and libraries?
None. None at all. None at all. I don't even have a print copy of my own books. It's just not something I've focused on. I've felt kind of from the beginning that print and hardback, those are owned by traditional publishers, that they kind of own that market, and I can't compete with them. So print books make up about 10% of my sales, which is still a nice number, and there's plenty of people who only buy books, print books, so it's great to have them, but I have not tried to get into bookstores. I see my books in libraries. I can see libraries buying them, and my audiobooks are available through almost every library, through like Hoopla or Overdrive or something. But it's just not something I've focused on. It's a totally different avenue that I haven't spent much time on.
But you're going to the steps of setting your book up in print on Ingram Spark and also on the online platform so that it's there for people that want to order the print copy, right?
Absolutely, yes. And I sell hundreds of print books a month, but I'm not focused on it. I'm not trying to.
All right. Couple of things I just want to, you threw out some terms like ProWriter and BookBrush and BookFunnel. Can you just touch on those, and then we're going to talk about the Groom Went Missing?
Sure. Those are some of the tools I'm currently using. I use ProWriter. Grammarly is similar. It's a app you pay maybe $100 a year for, and once I'm finished with like my first draft, I run each chapter through ProWriter, and it's like having a line editor. It helps tell you where you're missing a comma, make suggestions to just polish your writing a little bit. It's helpful. It's another way of looking at your writing, and it helps.
I did use it too on the recent book, and I noticed that it was catching some active passive issues I had in several places,
Yeah.
But sometimes it would do it and you'd say, that doesn't make any sense.
Yeah, like in dialogue, when a lot of times it's suggestions for dialogue you just have to ignore. You're not writing a business proposal, but it can be helpful.
All right, what about BookBrush and BookFunnel?
BookBrush is a tool that makes ads. So if you're running a lot of Facebook ads or running ads on BookBub that you pay for, you have to have an image. And before BookBrush, I would spend hours and hours trying to make a decent looking graphic to put in my ads. And now I either use my audiobook covers through tens of thousands of dollars of testing. I can tell you my audiobook covers work the best on my Facebook ads. And then the next thing is things that I'll make on BookBrush, and they just make it real easy for you to find a graphic, drag your book cover onto it. They even have pre-made images where you just put your book cover onto them, and it just helps. It saves a lot of time, and it will always give you a professional looking graphic. So I recommend that, and that's only like $100, $150 a year. And what was the other thing?
BookFunnel?
BookFunnel. Oh, I use BookFunnel when I send my book out to my advanced review team or to beta readers. It just makes it look a little more professional, and it takes care of any issues. Like if you don't want people saying, I can't download this, I can't figure this out. If you have even 50 people that can't figure it out, that's a lot of time that you're spending. So BookFunnel does that for you. They help people with the technical issues of getting your book downloaded. This is before you're selling it and you're just trying to get it out to your pre-readers. So that's good. It's a simple tool that helps.
So when you're having your pre-readers read it and you're still in the revision mode, are you just putting it up in PDF format at that point as opposed to formatting it in a digital format?
No, I put it up in BookFunnel. I offer an EPUB. I think that's for people who have like a Nook. I offer a Mobi file so they can send it right to their Kindle, and a PDF. So you have 3 options. But I might reformat those. I do it myself. So, I mean, if someone sends me 2 typos, I might reformat it in all 3 and put new ones up, in a matter of minutes. You can do that when you can do it yourself.
So as we wrap up here, Jenifer, you really have taken to this writing thing. What is it about writing that you love so much?
That should be an easy question. I think I just love that you set a goal to write a book. You have something to look forward every day. You look forward to creating that next scene, polishing that next scene, moving the story along. I just find that so enjoyable and rewarding. So I guess that's what it is.
Any tips for those indie authors out there who are saying, I've been knocking my head against the wall. I don't feel like I'm, getting enough readers. I don't feel like I'm making, a splash here. What are your thoughts and tips? And
Yeah. Well, the first thing I would say is to pick a genre. Don't skip around. If you pick mystery thriller, stick with it. Don't go write a romance next and then a YA book. Stick to one lane, stick to one genre, so that the people that religiously read that genre find you and will move right on to your next book and be excited about the book after that. So that's the first thing. If it's just for you, do whatever the heck you want. But if you really want to build a reader base, stick to one genre. And then the second thing is don't give up, because you just never know how close you are to hitting your goals, whatever they may be. It could be the next book is what changes everything, or a revised blurb changes everything, or one ad that someone shares and it goes viral. You just never know what that next thing is that could change everything for you. And if you give up, it's not going to happen. So be as smart as you can, learn as much as you can so that you're doing the right things, and don't give up.
Yeah, that's great. It is a process, and you have to just keep at it, keep learning. As you said, you keep trying new things. I keep trying new things, and I'll probably call you again, Jenifer, and bounce something else off of you sometime.
Anytime. I love to talk about this, so anytime.
Yeah, and we'll get you back on the podcast too. Hey, thanks so much for being on Charlotte's podcast, and continued good luck and good fortune to you in the writing world.
Thank you. Same to you.